that throughout the game, even though there was some adversity. I thought they kept their emotions in check. I think those are really important. I think I talked about those last week. When you go on the road, you have to eliminate distractions and from all the things that go on in pregame, during the game. There's a lot of distractions. I thought they did a very good job. I think the sideline was excellent. Guys really being positive with each other during the game. Those all go to, getting through the highs and lows of a game when you're on the road and the crowd's involved in it. So proud of our football team and the way they managed themselves and handled themselves in that situation. And then, offensively, we executed very well. Defensively, we came up with some stops when we needed them. Clearly on the offensive side of the ball, we've got to eliminate some mistakes up front. We've got to be cleaner. And I think defensively it's pretty clear it's the big play, eliminating the big plays. But, again, execution-wise, our best performance offensively, and then we'll look to build on that in terms of consistency of performance, and then defensively, cleaning up the big plays. I think that's it. And, special teams, I think we'll all see the same thing. First play of the game, we let the ball outside the defense. We've got to contain it on a kickoff, and then, we muff a punt. So, those guys know they have to, obviously be accountable, and, we've got to put them in a position to succeed. We'll keep coaching it, and we know we've got to get better there. So, move on to Ole Miss. Obviously, another top 10 team coming into the stadium, and we're excited about the challenge. It's an outstanding football team, well coached. Lane does a great job with obviously the offense, but overall a very confident football team. Been playing well, undefeated. It's an offense that is systematic in its play calling, what they're trying to do. The pieces fall together quite nicely, and very talented. The quarterback, is a true double threat quarterback. Dart can throw it. He can run. He's complemented with two outstanding backs, big receivers, and a very, very balanced attack. They can run it equally as well as they throw it, and so I have a lot of respect for what they do defensively. They're in, a three-down defense. We don't see a ton of what they do. They do what they do well, and I think they get pressures. I think they're second in the SEC in sacks. So difficult sometimes to know where they're coming from. We'll have to do a really good job with protections, scanning, and taking care of our quarterback. So excited to be at home. I know our guys want to obviously play well at home before our home fans. And, again, look forward to another challenge for an SEC top 10 team. So with that, we'll open up to questions.
Hey, Brian.
Yeah.
We're going to start on a lighthearted note. Saw you on the SEC Network this morning. Could you see Chris Doering? How did you keep a straight face through?
I could see him. Yeah. Yeah, I just.
Did you know that was coming?
I had no idea. No, I didn't know that he was going to dress like a clown. But I think if you keep betting, you get what you deserve there, because I think he's 0 for 4. In that situation, I think Pete should just up the ante, at this point, and make sure that there's no dress that he comes out in next time. And then there won't be any more betting.
Not every coach probably would have played along. I mean, but you seem like you're someone who's like, hey, look, this is a hard business and you have to make a lot of sacrifices. You can enjoy yourself once in a while. I mean, is that kind of the attitude you like to have?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's so many rivalries, right, in this conference between, this is another rivalry game, the Magnolia Trophy. Come on now. Get, get me the first time, right? You're not going to get me a second time. But yeah, there's just so many different rivalries, and those two obviously have them. We saw Marcus Spears had a friendly bet with somebody. I was made aware of that. So, it's just there's such passion in college football, and especially down here in the SEC. I love watching that, and so it just makes sense to allow them to continue to have those kinds of inside bets, and I can play along for a few minutes.
Yeah, Brian, you coached against Lane Kiffin, obviously, when he was at SC. You were at Notre Dame. It's been 10 years. But
yeah,
what's it like to coach against him? How much maybe has he changed from then to now?
Well, he's a creative coach offensively, and they always have been cutting edge in terms of what they do. And he's a guy that gets his team playing hard. I mean, they play hard. Offensively, there's always an answer to what you do in game as well. But I think more importantly, they scout you out. I mean, you better know your own self-scouting and where your tendencies are, because he's going to really dial in on if there's anything that you do. If you do anything defensively, he is going to analyze that and have an answer for it. So you got to be very good at your self-scout.
Hey, Coach, this past game you fall behind 7-0. You've got a 3rd and long, and Daniels makes that deep throw to Booty. Are you a believer in a play like that when you make it early on? Does a lot for your confidence in terms of, moving forward? If you don't make that play, maybe you don't have the success that you had?
Yeah, look, we've been at this, this had been the 7th game, and we have been confronted with those situations and haven't made them. But I don't think that there was any hesitation that we wouldn't go back to it, because those two have been working hard in practice and trying to build that, that relationship where, we find you. And if you remember in that situation, he kind of found some green grass, and he was going to be the primary on that play, and Jaden got flushed out of the pocket, but he kept his eyes looking for him, and it was really the first time when those two found each other, if you will, in terms of getting the ball, and then that drive, quite frankly, we had a lot of mistakes. We made a lot of mistakes. That drive ended up in the end zone because of those two guys. They made big plays, and that's what sometimes you need, is your big-time players have to step up, and I think that was the first time this year that our best players stepped up to that level and made plays.
Just after the film review, I guess that's kind of my question. Do you feel like that was a step up for the entire team offensively, or was it just the next step?
Yeah, I think it's got to be part of what we continue to grow towards. There's going to be times where guys just got to step up and make plays, and we had been kind of grinding it out, like, we were trying to fight for every blade of grass, and sometimes you just got to make some plays. The big touchdown, throw to Jere Jenkins. They jump offside. That's part of our offense. Take a shot down the field. Maybe early in the year we throw that out of bounds. So just staying at it and being consistent with coaching it, and then telling our guys that, look, sooner or later we got to step up and make these plays, and they did on Saturday. And now we've got to be consistent at it. You can't do it one week and then turn it off the next week and expect to win.
Yeah, hey, Coach, right over here. Second top 10 team you guys welcome here in 2 weeks. Just what lessons can you take away from maybe the last time you played a top 10 team here, and just whether it's in preparation, whether it's in focus, mentality, just what kind of lessons can you take away from that last one?
Well, each week this team is learning so much and growing. Unfortunately, they learned from the Tennessee loss, and nobody really wants to be learning lessons after a loss, but they learned a lot about intentionality and purpose in terms of their preparation, and we saw that during the week, and it carried over to the way they played on the road. I think then you win on the road in the fashion that they did, you build more confidence in your football team. So I think 2 weeks later, it's, I don't want to say a different team, but it's a team that has confidence. It's a team that knows that if they don't play clean, if they don't have an attention to detail, they'll have similar results that they did against Tennessee. So I guess what I'm saying is that it's not a different team, but it's a team that has grown from the last couple of weeks. And if they take that knowledge into their preparation this week and into the game and their performance, then we should have one really fine football team.
Hey, Coach, over here to your left. Can you talk about, what you saw from the DB room this past weekend and just how much they progressed in SEC play?
I thought, there were some good things, things that we got to continue to work on. Obviously, big plays. We got to tackle better. I think it starts there. Obviously we gave up a big play early on, right out of the gates. We got to stay on top of the coverage there. So it's kind of a mixed bag right now. I'd like to stand up here and tell you that everything's great, and we're ready to, enshrine them all into the College Football Hall of Fame, but that's just not the case. I mean, it's work in progress, and we got to continue to get better at both, the corner and safety and nickel position. But I think it starts with the fundamentals, leverage, staying on top of the football, and tackling, quite frankly. This is, I don't want to make it simple, but it's not that hard. We've got to get better in the fundamentals. If we get better in the fundamentals, we'll be better on the back end of our defense.
Ryan, over here. Will Campbell received SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week.
Thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it.
When was the last time you remember in your career playing two freshman offensive tackles on the line, and why don't true freshmen typically play in this position?
I don't think I ever have, but I'm having a hard time, with last week in memory. So 32 years, 33 years. I don't believe I've ever started two freshmen, period, on an offensive line, but to have two tackles in the SEC is quite unusual. Again, I think I talked about this last week. It's not necessarily the physical. Although they have the physical, because you cannot play in this league unless you have physical traits. These guys are too fast, they're too big, they're too strong. They'll walk you back to the quarterback if you're not physically strong enough. And Emory Jones and Will Campbell physically have the traits to go in the weight room and be as strong as anybody that we have, and are able to move their feet to obviously get out and set these guys. They're going to miss a couple, right? We got beat inside on a couple of times that they counter-moved us. But these guys are extraordinary in their ability to move on to the next play. They focus and then refocus. So their mental approach to the game is so far above any freshman that I'm used to having. They generally, have that look in their eyes right about now that they're done. These guys are anxious for more, and that's unusual.
Brian, Ole Miss runs that kind of Baylor offensive scheme, the old Baylor.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities.
I guess because they have so much success in the run game, what does that kind of scheme do that makes stopping the run so difficult?
Well, it's perimeter based. The ball's trying to get out on the perimeter, but you now have a quarterback that if you're spreading yourself thin on the perimeter, he strikes down the heart of your defense. So, and then they've got a great play action game, and Mingo's 6'3", 6'4", 225 pounds. He's a matchup nightmare. So, when your safeties are dropping down, you're trying to load the box, you're trying to defend the perimeter. Now they got one-on-one matchups that they can throw the football. So, Auburn was trying to stop the passing game, and then they were a little soft to the run game. They run for 400 yards. You cannot win games giving up 400 yards rushing. So, well, you can, but you're playing the game, up and down the field. So it's just it's an offense that has been set up, obviously to, force the ball outside, but they have a quarterback now that can run it so effectively as well. They threw the ball last year because they had a great quarterback in Corral. This is a different quarterback, and so that's what Lane does well. He's going to set his offense based upon who the player is. It's not about plays, it's about players for him, and he changes based upon who he has, and he's got a quarterback that is a real dual threat.
Coach, Ole Miss's running game has gotten a lot of the credit this year. Obviously, ran for over 400 yards last week. But what have you seen out of Jackson Dart in that passing game for what you've seen so far?
Well, he's a pure, I mean, if he was in a different, and I've played against him, in a pure passing spread offense. He's a beautiful thrower of the football. I mean, he is, California, throw the football. I mean, he has all those traits. But he's also athletic enough and can run that they've put him now in a system where he becomes a dual threat. So, we've played Hooker. We've played Richardson. We're going to play Jefferson. These are big-bodied, thick, physical quarterbacks, right, that are not, look, they're all really good quarterbacks that can throw, but they don't throw like this kid. This kid has the ability to drop back, 50 times if they wanted to and throw the football.
Hey, Coach, about Josh Williams, he's just an incredible story, a former walk-on, and in a performance where Jaden Daniels had 6 touchdowns, he had 6 straight offensive touchdowns in the first 6 possessions. Why was it important to give the game ball to Josh Williams for his play on Saturday night?
So the theme all week was attention to detail, and so his attention to the smallest of details in that game helped us win, and I wanted to make sure that kind of was followed up, with the game ball. We asked our back to chip a lot, off those defensive ends to help those young tackles that we just talked about. And, he's not 6'2". I mean, so when you talk about him having the chip, he's got to leave his feet to chip. But he was outstanding at it. He stopped the charge of defensive ends, caught the ball coming out of the backfield, picked up blitzers, actually picked up the defensive end by himself a couple of times when we missed a slide, ran the ball coming out in the third quarter with authority that gave us great momentum. Just a little bit of everything, all the little jobs that you ask him to do, he does them, and sometimes he does them for the first time. That's over 100 yards for the first time for him, so we wanted to reward him in kind.
Brian, just real quick, Jack Besh and Armani Goodwin, what's their status this week?
Jack is, he's day-to-day. He's got the same back situation, which is an L5. It's cranky. Hopefully we can get him up and going. He's a tough guy. Hopefully we can get him loose enough where he can play. And Armani, we're going to practice him on Tuesday and see what we can get. He wants to play, and our doctors have cleared him. We'll see what kind of volume we can get out of him, and hopefully it goes well during the week.
And then when you talk about just like the chunk plays on defense and giving those up, how do you go about cleaning that up? Is it as simple as tackling like you said?
Saw it, right? I mean, we tried to punch the ball loose twice on Richardson. You got to tackle him. I mean, that's a commitment. You got to go and wrap him up and bring him down on the ground. And, so that was tackling. We gave up the big play pass where we just need to stay on top, and we did not. We gave up run after the catch, and again, that was a tackling situation. So we just have to be better at tackling. I think if we start there and really focus on just doing our job, we're going to be much better at the defensive end.
I guess I haven't watched in detail every game of how you've been on the sidelines, but it looked like you kind of had like a little cheat sheet or notes set with you when you were going through the game. I just was wondering kind of what went into that.
Situational football, mostly situational calls. Mike called a great game, I thought. I'm just looking at situational calls and just reminding the quarterback, talking to Mike, talking to Matt, mostly on situational calls.
Coach, down here, a couple of things. Do you mention to the team at all potentially tying for the West lead this week? And also the Brian Thomas catch that was overturned. Have you gotten a sufficient explanation for that?
No, we won't talk about tying for the West. I think it's too early to talk in terms of that. I think there's just too much football left to be played. What we're going to talk about is how we play better at home in front of our fans against the top 10 team. I mean, our focus will be on ourselves more so than what that means. Then we get a week off to kind of assess, you know, and then we'll kind of put the next 4 weeks kind of in perspective, and maybe we'll start to talk about it from that sense. I have not. You know, there were some things that happened in that game that just, you know, my biggest concern is that we're just slowing the game down. You know, we're already, look, we got to pay the bills. I get it. You know, it's 4-3, 4-3 with timeouts. That's not going away, or we're going to be, you know, obviously not paying anybody anything. So, but to stop the game for so many reviews and most of them to be the play stands as called, it just takes away the flow of the game. And hopefully it's something that we can look at the end of the season. Maybe it can be instant replay on scoring plays only, or change of possession. And then if you feel like that it's egregious, throw your red flag out there. But it just seems like we're slowing the game down. But that'll be a topic that we can have after the season ends.
Hey, Brian. This is a little layered, but can you explain how you all go through the play call operation? Does Mike have complete autonomy? How involved are you, and were you more involved Saturday than you had been prior?
Mike calls all the good plays, and I call all the great plays. So it comes down from Mike, and Cortez. Obviously, he's got him on the sideline, but they're going through our signalers. So I'm hearing them, and I'm just making look. There's a couple of voices. One, you know, obviously is enough. You can't have 3 or 4 voices when, you know, you're getting the play and you're getting into a flow. The one thing, and I've been a play caller, you can't get a million suggestions going. You've got to let a play caller go. And for me, I'm reminding him on whether we're going for it on 4th down and what we need to go for it on 4th down, how many yards. Hey, we're going for it on 4th and 3 here, so you can run it twice. I'll give him suggestions like that during the series. And other than that, kind of allow him to keep in the flow of the game. I'm reminding him of time and timeouts and really time management issues more than anything else. Other than that, play calling it's an art and a science, but you can't get in the way of the art of it.
Hey, Coach, I want to ask you a couple about your specialists there. Ramos, I know he's only tried 6 field goals all year, but that seemed to be a pretty big kick for him, you know, moving forward, a pressure-packed spot. And then Bramlett, I see, is averaging almost 46 yards per punt. So if you could maybe just your thoughts on those 2 guys.
Yeah, I think thanks for asking the question. Damian Ramos, let's put him in that situation, right? I mean, it's loud. That's a big kick, right? That ices the game, and he nails it. Snap was great. The hold was great. The execution was, we've seen, you know, that has to happen too, right? We just could go back to the first week. So the execution was great. The kick was great. But he has been consistent since we put him in camp. We've tried to simulate those the best we can with loud music, and he's been spot on. So we felt really confident in that situation. And Bramlett, as you saw, we made a bit of a change where we directionally kicked a little bit, and he was outstanding. You know, we were pushing that ball closer to the sideline to squeeze our coverage teams into a better location. He's capable of kicking it 50-plus every time. We don't want to stretch out our coverage teams quite as much. So directionally, he was outstanding.
Just 2 quick ones. Does it feel like this season has flown by to you? And then secondly, facing another fellow analytic-minded coach, do you have to prepare your defense any differently to expect maybe, not necessarily the unexpected, but to be on the field longer?
Yes. Yeah, we look at all those numbers, and you know, there's some similarities there in terms of making sure our guys understand they're going to be on the field for most of the 4th down situations that are going to be occurring. So we've already had that meeting with the coordinators. Yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying the heck out of it. So when you're enjoying what you're doing, you know, it doesn't seem like it's, you know, oh my God, it's October. I mean, you know, it just feels like this is, you know, this is what I wanted to do, and it's flying by.
Hey, Coach, right here. With Ole Miss's defense, what are some notable strengths that they have, and what are some things that you guys are going to have to look out for when it comes to that unit?
Well, it's hard to know exactly where the birds line up all the time. It's 3 down, it's 3-3, 3-4. They're playing with a nickel and dime. They're playing some invert. You don't know where some of the pressures. They're striking from the field. They're striking from the boundary. So you got to be on your toes. You know, this is a week where recognition and understanding where it's coming from is going to be really important. So quarterback's going to is going to have to be on it. He's going to have to slide the right way. Our back's going to have to go coast to coast in some of their read progressions. There's got to be a better attention, you know, in that regard, where sometimes when you're in 4 down, you know where the overload blitz is coming from, you know, from 4 down situations, because you got to tip it. So you got to lock in on safeties. You know, you got to look for the tells. This just is a week where you got to really do a really good job against them. Good? All right, thank you.